The most violent era in Medellín began not with an explosion, but with an ambition. In the late 1970s, a young smuggler named Pablo Escobar looked at Colombia not as a country bound by laws, but as a marketplace waiting to be conquered. What began with contraband cigarettes and stolen electronics evolved into a cocaine pipeline so vast that by the mid-1980s, it was estimated to supply roughly 80% of the world's cocaine. From clandestine jungle airstrips to suburban American streets, Escobar's network moved product with industrial precision. Money flowed back in torrents, reshaping Medellín's skyline and distorting Colombia's political bloodstream. Yet Escobar understood something beyond logistics. Power required legitimacy. He poured millions into impoverished barrios, building housing blocks, soccer fields, and community centers. To some residents, he was a benefactor who delivered what the state never had. But behind the philanthropy was a doctrine as simple as it was lethal: plata o plomo, silver or lead. Accept the bribe or face the bullet. Colombia's fragile institutions soon found themselves caught between envelopes thick with cash and bombs hidden in city streets. In 1982, Escobar stepped into the national spotlight, winning a seat as an alternate member of Congress. For a moment, it appeared the trafficker had transcended criminality and entered the realm of statesmanship. The political class recoiled, sensing contamination. The illusion shattered on April 30, 1984, when Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, who had publicly denounced Escobar's criminal empire, was assassinated. Lara's murder ignited outrage across Colombia and forced a reckoning. The state could no longer pretend the traffickers were mere businessmen operating at the margins. They were political actors willing to redraw the nation's future in blood. Pressure mounted, and Escobar answered not with retreat, but escalation. He helped organize Los Extraditables, a cartel front devoted to preventing extradition to the United States, where prison walls could not be bribed so easily. The message was blunt: we prefer a grave in Colombia to a cell in the United States. When lobbying and bribery failed, terror became the instrument of persuasion. Judges were gunned down, police officers ambushed, journalists silenced, and civilians caught in the crossfire. Car bombs detonated in crowded urban centers, ripping through storefronts and bus stops. The 1989 assassination of presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galán stunned the nation and revealed that no office, no public figure was beyond reach. That same year, one of the darkest chapters unfolded when Avianca Flight 203 exploded in mid-air, killing 110 people. Investigators linked the bombing to traffickers seeking to eliminate a perceived adversary and intimidate the political system. Terror was no longer covert, it was theatrical, designed for maximum psychological impact. The Medellín Cartel was not simply fighting for profit, it was attempting to coerce a nation into submission. International pressure intensified. The United States, flooded with cocaine and alarmed by escalating violence, deepened cooperation with Colombian authorities. The DEA worked alongside local units, tracking shipments, finances, and communications. In 1989, Colombia formed the Search Bloc, a specialized police unit tasked exclusively with capturing Escobar. The hunt became relentless, a fusion of wiretaps, surveillance, and boots on rooftops. As the pursuit intensified, alliances grew murky. Rival traffickers from the Cali cartel, along with shadowy groups formed by victims of Escobar's violence, created ad hoc coalitions to dismantle his network. Among them was Los Pepes, a vigilante formation that targeted Escobar's associates and assets with ruthless efficiency. Historians would later debate the extent of tacit cooperation between elements of the security apparatus and these extra-legal actors, revealing a troubling convergence of vengeance and law enforcement. Lines blurred, justice and retaliation intertwined. Meanwhile, Escobar's tactics became increasingly audacious. Downtown Bogotá shook from car bombs, government buildings were attacked, extradition became a national fault line. Yet in Medellin's poorest neighborhoods, his myth endured. Children played soccer on fields he funded. Families lived in houses built with cartel money. To some, he remained a symbol of defiance against an unequal system. To others, he was the architect of unrelenting fear. In 1991, after years of cat-and-mouse pursuit, Escobar negotiated his surrender. The terms were extraordinary: confinement in La Catedral, a prison of his own design perched above Medellín, complete with comforts and loyal guards. From within its walls, he continued to orchestrate operations, demonstrating that incarceration did not equal defeat. But pressure mounted once more, both domestically and internationally. When authorities moved to transfer him to a conventional facility in 1992, Escobar escaped, vanishing back into the labyrinth of the city. The manhunt intensified to a fever pitch. Phone tap intelligence, signal triangulation, and painstaking fieldwork gradually narrowed the search. On December 2, 1993, the Search Bloc located him in a modest middle-class neighborhood. A rooftop chase ended in gunfire. Escobar fell, dead at 44. Official accounts maintain he was killed by police fire. Alternative theories persist that he took his own life rather than face capture. What remains indisputable is that his death marked the end of the Medellín Cartel's dominance. Victory proved complicated. The dismantling of one empire did not erase the structures that enabled it. The Escobar era exposed systemic corruption that reached into politics, business, and segments of law enforcement. It prompted institutional reforms, new security doctrines, and intensified international collaboration against narcotics trafficking. It left behind mass graves, displaced families, and neighborhoods permanently altered by violence and illicit wealth. Medellín would transform in the decades that followed, investing in urban renewal, transit systems, and social programs that redefined its global image. But beneath the modern skyline lie echoes of that turbulent era, reminders of how quickly a criminal enterprise can distort a democracy and how difficult it is to repair the social fabric once torn. The saga of Pablo Escobar is not merely the story of a trafficker brought down. It is the chronicle of a nation tested by corruption and terror, of institutions forced to evolve under fire, and of a coalition of investigators, rivals, and survivors who refused to surrender the state to intimidation. It is a cautionary tale about the seductive power of illicit wealth and the cost of confronting it. And it stands as a stark reminder that history is not shaped only in parliaments and courts, but also in the shadows where ambition meets impunity, and where eventually the reckoning arrives.